Today's episode brought to you by OurRecap.com.
It's high noon.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to High Noon Podcast, the competitive Overwatch podcast. I'm your host, Blevins, and with me today is good friend BlazzinBob. What's up, buddy?
Hey, man, I'm glad that my beard was finally good enough for the podcast.
You finally got enough scruff to act like you're tough here on High Noon Podcast. Thank you. Of course, as mentioned in the intro, I'll recap. That's you, man.
And
that's you.
In all seriousness, this is one of the first Overwatch podcasts that I started listening to. This and OmniClab and like one other, and it's an honor to come on the show, sir. It's an honor.
We are happy to have you at any time. Deathblow is out today for some family stuff. Nothing crazy. Just not here today. He'll be back next week, so no worries there. And yeah, always nice to have some guests. Always nice to have an illustrious podcast host like yourself on, and now with an Around the Payload title to boot. Finally, forever fourth place anymore.
Well, I moved up to third. I beat Mushu finally, but
true.
But yeah, finally got that win. But I've also, when I first came on, I was pretty much a noob to the whole Overwatch esports scene, and I've spent a long time now, all last season, watching almost every game. And I actually am not memeing now and actually giving some okay information.
See, you've were doing what I was doing and still am doing for so long, and now you've ascended to an actual professional. And
I'm almost there. We're
Semi-pro. We're all semi-pro, at least in our hearts. But let's move right along and talk a little bit about what's been going on in the High Noon Productions world. Of course, the mainstay in Tier 2 competitive Overwatch. That, of course, is the Blackwatch Report. Always a new episode every week. Sometimes two. They remind me of an old me when I still had hope in life. And but Thorn Rain and Kyle Wynn just workhorses in keeping the Tier 2 scene going. Make sure you check out Blackwatch Report. Of course, we also had another episode of Foul Play. That's your Fantasy Overwatch League play show. Last week, we were sans A. Smith because he is a newly minted father, so congratulations to him. And if you're listening live here, you're going to be able to watch the another a live episode of Foul Play with the return of the newly minted Dad Smith. He will be he'll be here to co-host in Deathblow's absence here. But let's move on here and talk about some news. That, of course, is the news. Light news week this week, but we did get one nice little gem here. Sleepy from the San Francisco Shock has left and now joined the Washington Justice. He did post his thoughts in a twit longer. I will post the links to that in the description. The TLDR was a quick move, but it was overall a good move in his mind. He's got big plans for moving to Washington and is overall happy. No Bostonian bad blood going, leaving the Shock. Nothing but good, kind words to say. Bob, what are your thoughts on Sleepy going to the Washington Justice?
I think Shock is smart to start healing some of the players, and they know Sleepy's not going to play after Violet came in and just shook the world. Sleepy is a talent, but he's not that, but he's definitely going to be an upgrade on Washington Justice. It didn't help him out, this week as much, but was he with the team for like a day? So
yeah,
give it some time. We saw Baby Bay improve this week, and I think it's just going to take some time for him to get in there and start working. But yeah, I'm sure he's glad to start. I'm sure any player's glad to start.
Yeah, this is kind of one of the examples of the classic story in competitive sports, esports, what have you, where do you want to be a big fish in a little pond or a big fish in a gigantic pond? Do you want to be the best player on a bad team, or do you want to be the seventh man on a great team? And uh, I've thought about this, and I'm sure you probably have as well, Bob, for years, just contemplating where would I rather be? Do I want to be the 18th man on Duke and know for my whole life that I never saw the court even for a second, or do I want to be the starting player on a D3 college team? I don't know. What are your thoughts on that kind of dynamic here?
Me being an A-type personality, I would definitely want to be the starter on a D3 team. I mean, that's just, I would want to play, and the stories would be even better later on in life because just going to tell people, oh, I was on the team.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, did you play? No. Well, came in one time. But, like,
Right.
that wouldn't be a good story. And so I think just the learning and everything would be better as me being a starter on a team that I
Mm-hmm.
fit on.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely. I've kind of been in both situations somewhat, where I've been one of the best players on a really, really bad team where we literally didn't win an entire game the whole season. I've also been a supporting role on a very, very good team. I honestly don't know which I prefer, but it's one of those things where I don't fault anyone for making a decision one way or the other. Sleepy seems to be happy with this decision, so good for him. And man, Washington Justice making moves, man. Are we gonna see some Are we gonna see some more Washington Justice wins this stage? Are they putting themselves in the
This
position to win?
stage, I don't know. Who do they have next?
Oh well, they don't play this week. I know that because
They're not. Yeah, they're not
I
there.
studied the teams playing very much so today at work while I was finishing and scrambling to complete a fantasy roster. Which, let me give you a little spoiler for foul play. I am not able to get close to doing. I am going to probably. I'm just hoping that everyone else is in the same position here. But I am going to get stomped if anyone has even a semblance. If anyone even fields a full roster, I'm going to get trashed.
Oh man. Well, yeah, but back to what you're saying. The Washington Justice, they do get a week off to practice with Sleepy. I still don't know if it's enough. They take on Shanghai, who has continued to keep looking better,
Yep.
and they take on the Boston Uprising, and still think Boston's going to take that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely an uphill battle, but you know what? I'm just glad, even though I like have that pocket love for Florida Mayhem, for some reason I just keep going back to them and keep wanting them to win. They're not doing that. They're making moves. They're really pushing forward. They're doing stuff. So, congrats to them
As
for
a
that.
as an avid listener of the show, I would say it's because you're a Bear Hands fan.
True, true story. Definitely true there. But let's move on here, and it's tournament talk. I've never once introduced that sound drop in a way that makes sense and goes with the sound drop. Not even one time. But we're going to talk about the matches that happened this week. Bob, you want to alternate the days here? We'll go through. I'll give you the honors of throwing out some of these scores.
Sure. Do you want me to start, or you want to start with Thursday?
You know what? I'll do Friday because I have to deliver the heartfelt news. I want to be the one to do it.
All right. So on Thursday, April the 18th, the New York Excelsior win 3-1 against the Philadelphia Fusion. The San Francisco Shock go 4-0 again against the Toronto Defiant. The Florida Mayhem go 1. Oh, whoops, I messed it up. Los Angeles Gladiators went 3-1 against the Florida Mayhem. And the Vancouver Titans destroyed the Dallas Fuel 4-0.
Oof. Yeah, we both our teams got two of our teams got trounced there, so no bad
rough.
blood there. But this is, man, this is where the real sting hurts. The real sting
Oof.
comes in. On Friday, the Atlanta Reign and the upset of the century, I would say, across all sports, across everything. The most unexpected thing to happen in the world.
History was made.
History was made. History was made as the Atlanta Reign defeat the New York Excelsior for the first time in the regular season here, 3-1. The Philadelphia Fusion, at least I get to. Deathbow's not even here, so I don't even get to feel good about this one. Philadelphia Fusion trounced the Houston Outlaws 4-0. The LA Valiant pick up their second win of the season here, 3-1 versus the Washington Justice, and the Hangzhou Spark eke out a 3-2 victory versus the Guangzhou Charge.
All right, then moving on to Saturday, April 20th. The London Spitfire continue their reign over Stage 2 and take
Don't
Boston
say rain.
Uprising.
It's just going to trigger me.
4-0.
What's that outside? Stop it, nature. Don't do that. It's triggering me. It rained all weekend, and I was very upset the whole time. I just old man screaming at cloud was literally the case.
Oh man, I didn't even go out the whole weekend, so I wouldn't even have known. The Shanghai Dragons go 3-1 against the Florida Mayhem. The Seoul Dynasty 4-0 the Boys in Blue Dallas Fuel.
See,
and
I set it up that I wanted to deliver the news about New York losing, but really I just wanted you to say that the
you
Fuel
wanted to do it
lost
twice.
twice.
Yeah, I know. 0-8, baby, 0-8. Oh man, and then the LA Gladiators continue their strong run in Stage 2 with a 3-1 victory over the Chengdu Hunters.
See, Toronto can't go 0-8 if they only play once in the week. Think about it. Think about it. Round out the week, Saturday, we had the Vancouver Titans, still their untarnished reign, continuing against the Boston Uprising 4-0. Shanghai Dragons, again, I don't get to rub it in Deathblow's face. Shanghai Dragons beat the Houston Outlaws 3-0. The San Francisco Shock also continuing their reign as well. I'm triggering myself. 4-0 versus the Hangzhou Spark, and Guangzhou Charge finish out the week beating the Atlanta Reign. Screw you guys, 3-1. So let's just talk about the elephant in the room that, I mean, I'm clearly not affected by it all and have remained entirely neutral about. But NYXL lost to the Atlanta Reign. What in the world went on in that match, Bob?
I have no idea. I mean, like, although I will say New York looked a little lost, and it was really bizarre to me because usually they come in and they just look good. But I think Atlanta took what the teams that have beat them in the past have done, and that's just be extremely aggressive. And Jonak didn't, get 6Ks, so that hurt too.
Yeah, you hear the casters talk about it all the time. Oh, New York, very calculated, very precise. They are not aggressive. They are not one of those hyper aggressive teams. They're a defensive team, and just in general, not even necessarily in Overwatch, like a defensive type of play in a game or in a sport is generally very good against an aggressive style play. However, if that aggressive style play goes unchecked and the defensive style play can't counter the offensive style play, that's when you start getting run over. And unfortunately, that happened for the New York Excelsior. The other thing is, it seemed almost like NYXL is kind of stuck in their own heads. They're not adapting like you really should be when you're losing. I mean, we'll talk about the Houston Outlaws as well up next, where, and this is almost a continuation of the conversation we had last week with Flame defending, we're just going to keep going goats against these teams even though we know we're not going to win. At some point, you gotta be willing to change what you're doing in order to win. I mean, in New York's case, like, this one loss isn't really going to affect much in terms of their stage playoffs or probably their season playoffs. However, like, you're giving footage on how to beat you. All your tiebreakers are getting worse now. You're absolutely not going to be that 1 seed. You're probably not going to be the 2 and possibly not even the 3 seed, depending on how it plays out. With San Francisco and Vancouver being so strong right now.
And
Um,
LA Gladiators are
it, it-
killing too.
right.
And London's 4-0.
Yeah, there are a lot of teams right now that are up at that top. And it seems almost like New York kind of took it for granted, kind of like they have in the past with in other points in time, namely the playoffs. But as the consummate New York fan, I'm not worried. Of course, they are still an amazing team. They still have arguably one of the best tanks, arguably the best flex support,
They need to
and
get those ES in and playing more. They need to try some stuff out.
yeah, I think they just like they have such a wide depth of a bench, right? Like they have SBB, they have Flower, they have Pine, all sitting on the bench, which is fine because it's not like they're playing worse players. However, like, why is SBB there? Why is Flower there? I mean, Flower saw a couple of minutes in one of the matches a couple of weeks ago, I believe.
Yeah,
I
he
think it was
did.
2 weeks ago, and he did fine. But that was more of a this is garbage time. We're just like we're gonna play him out. What's Pine doing? What's SBB doing? What's Flower doing on that roster? I as a fan want those players on the team, but if you're not going to use them, free up that space. Like,
I will say we talked about players that might prefer to be, you know, not the best player on a team. Pine might be one of those.
yeah,
Pine enjoyed coming in here and there and not playing every game. But the others, I don't. I can't imagine SBB wants to be on the bench.
yeah, I'm not imagining SBB wanting to be on the bench. I don't know. I mean, it's just tough for him because he's that tracer kind of specialist, and maybe he doesn't want to overplay his hand, which I can understand too. I don't know. Maybe it's not the meta. It's not the stage for that to happen, and they're holding out those players for other times. But I don't know. Man, they've got this week off to reflect, though. I mean, we've seen NYXL have time off and not use it well, and all the time off they had last season, they didn't really use, and then they decided to kind of take time off while they were still playing during the season in stage 4, and it didn't help.
You gotta think they've learned their lesson, though. You know what I mean?
Do you though?
You got to. You got to.
I would think Seoul learns their lesson every week, yet there's still weeks where they don't play Fleta.
See, they were so much better than every other team last year. I think Vancouver might have them a little scared, and shocked too, arguably.
Yeah. I mean, they might, but here's the problem with that logic is that even if they are afraid of Vancouver, they've already kind of shown, or at least their actions have led me to believe that they don't care as much about stage playoffs, which we talked about on the show before, but it makes sense from we're not going to spend a bunch of scrim hours scrimming for this patch that's not going to be relevant against these teams that we don't care about. They don't play against Vancouver until the actual last match of the regular season in the season. So like, even if they're afraid of Vancouver now, it doesn't matter to them, and they already beat
I
Shock.
get that logic, but I think it's wrong. I think that every team
yeah, me
should
too.
care about the stage. The stage playoffs are big, and they keep it exciting throughout the entire season, and they keep fans of lower tier teams coming back to be like, oh, maybe this is our stage, and I think they're a good thing, and now they even upped the money this year. It's a significant bonus. So I think they should pay more attention to it.
I do, and I mean this kind of also goes into the kind of the psyche of the players and just what I used to do and what we used to do when I played basketball in high school is like every player. It wasn't our goal is to win every single game and our goal is to be the champions of the world, like because that's unrealistic, right? Well, for us it was unrealistic. It was, hey, what is your personal goal this season? Oh, my personal goal is to make the sectional playoffs and go from there. Okay, well, everything you're doing this season is in is with that in the back of your mind. Oh, am I going to go to this workout on a Saturday when we don't have scheduled practice, or am I going to goof off? Well, I want to make the sectional playoffs this season, so I'm going to go to this workout on Saturday. I'm going to do this, and this. Are we going to, are we going to go to keeping that in mind. So it's possible that NYXL has set their sight on, we are going to have the best regular season record, a perfectly viable goal. But that would mean that they're not necessarily focusing on the stage playoffs, which is, I don't think I would take that approach if I were on the management of NYXL, but I also can understand it. I think if the team agrees that what we want to do is set ourselves up to have the best regular season record and go into the season playoffs with the best shot to win, if that's what the team has decided on as a team, I'm fine with that as a fan.
But is it their best shot to win when they have less playoff type practice?
Yeah, I mean,
I just don't know.
I can see I can see both sides of it for sure. I'm not discounting one thing or another, and also I don't know if that's I don't even know if that's the case.
Yeah, definitely speculation here.
It's all entirely speculation. But I can see, and we talked about it on the show, like especially for last stage when the stage playoffs were on old patch, old meta, like. If I'm NYXL, maybe my scrims aren't going to be that old patch. Maybe I'm scrimming on the new patch. Maybe I'm trying to set myself up for stage 2. I could see the value in that. I could also see the value in, trying to actually beat Seoul. I can see the value in that. Obviously, as a fan, I want them to win every game, no matter what, unless it's against Toronto, in which case I don't know who I want to win.
Kind of a weird area.
I really just want it to be a tie. I want it to be a double win somehow, but.
Probably want whoever's lowest to get the win if they still have playoff chances.
Yes, I guess I will default to always wanting Toronto to win, since my Toronto hat is closer to me, and I'm also wearing a Raptors hat, so that kind of counts. But yeah, no, I won't spend any more time on it, but I don't know. I hope that this is just another blip. I mean, we've seen blips in NYXL's regular season, right? They lost to Philly, yep. They've lost to Boston, they've lost to a lot of teams in the regular season, not at once, but except for that stage 4. But I'm hoping that this is just another road bump. We're going to be fine. We're going to win some stage playoffs, and we can forget this Atlanta game ever happened. But something that probably won't be forgotten and can't be forgotten is the Houston Outlaws also taking a bit of a spanking this weekend with a 0-4 to Philly and an 0-3 to Shanghai, especially going into this home. I already forgot. HomeSTAnd. I already forgot. Yes, HomeSTAnd weekend. God, we talked about this so many times that I still forget what it's called. And I literally have it written down a line under what I'm reading. But, we talked about it last week. Houston running goats into goats and getting outclassed, not changing, like having maybe a shot. I mean, at this point, like I understood, you know what? I'm just going to concede to the fact that I understood the argument that was made in favor of Houston staying goats last week. Bonnie, I think, put it the best way. If our assumption is that we're gonna be one of the best teams in the league, we got to be able to beat the best teams at the league, doing what is seen and what is widely considered the best thing in the league, namely goats. Okay, great. Even a loss against Vancouver with goats, you're gaining something from that, right? You're probably, if you're Houston Outlaws, you're not thinking that the match against Vancouver Titans is a locked and loaded win, right? Like, you're not going into that thinking, well, we're definitely going to win this. And this is when we're plotting out the stage. We're not like, oh, let's mark the W against Vancouver and plan that in for our stage playoffs. It's probably a loss, so you're going to get as much as you can out of it. I get it. But are you marking that as an L against Shanghai Dragons? Are you marking an 0-4 L against Philadelphia Fusion?
Well, maybe they took Jane at his word and, we were thinking that Philly has trash goats,
Yeah, maybe they do, and that's not necessarily untrue, but what does that say about your goats as the Houston Outlaws?
Yeah, I think they're actually spiraling down pretty bad. I
Hmm.
was watching Muma, and I've never seen Muma tilt so bad like as he tilted this weekend. And you could
Hmm.
just see all of their faces after the matches, and they're just broken. And then was it the match against? I think it was Philadelphia, and they were like, uh, was it Philadelphia? No, it was Shanghai. I don't know, but like the first match was on Busan,
Hmm.
and they took the first point easy. It was good. Then the next one, they took it all the way to 99%. Then they lost it. Then the next one, they took it all the way to 99%, like from the start. So I mean,
Hmm.
one more team fight and they win
Hmm.
both of those points, and they just couldn't do it. And you just see their faces after, and they're not talking to each other.
Mm.
I mean, it was really hard to watch. Then they go on to Anubis and they full hold first point against Shanghai, and they're like, "Yeah," and then Shanghai full holds against them. You know, like it's like you just see their faces and they're
Yeah.
just broken. And
Yep.
I think mentality and tilt is a real thing,
Hmm.
especially in the Overwatch League. Confidence is a real thing and it exists, and I think the players have lost the confidence in the staff, and I think that's a
Yep.
very dangerous thing. I also think that you really could give Bonnie a chance, like put him in the lineup planned where he gets to actually practice and know he's
Hmm.
going to play, and give Bonnie a chance. I've seen him on Zen, and it might be time to go ahead and let Ruckus sit down for a little while. I mean,
Hmm.
like I'm just saying you might need to shake some stuff up, and I still just don't agree. If you are gonna play goats, just play Jake on freaking Brig. Like it's a
Hmm.
big brain and someone who can communicate with the entire team. I mean, having
Hmm.
oh shit, I'm just blanking on his name. Having
Boink?
the one
No.
Korean,
Oh, Arhan.
yeah, having Arhan in there and not being able to understand anything, and then
Hmm.
he's playing Brigitte, which a lot of people don't really realize, but Brig plays a huge part into goats and getting combos to work correctly.
Hmm.
And so,
Hmm.
I mean, just I don't agree with not playing Jake. And then also, I just don't really agree with them keep trying goats. Like on one map, they went in with like goats, soldier goats, which I was like, what is this? And uh, Arhan was still on the Brig, and like the Brig just really wasn't doing much. Tracer was eating them up, even though they had a Brig. Why not just throw Arhan on Tracer real quick?
Hmm.
Just try it. I mean, you guys are struggling. Try something.
Right, and this week, and I guess this upcoming week, which we'll talk about more in a little bit, it's going to be a big. It's going to be a big test for them. Obviously, they're in a bad spot right now on this stage, but they need to start getting that forward momentum. If not for this stage, then for the next, and then also salvaging their end of season record as well. But going back to the Bonnie and the Flame argument of like, well, if we're gonna be one of the best teams, we need to be able to play the best teams with the best thing. You're not one of the best teams, and at the end of the day, you need to win, right? So what you're saying instead is we're going to play what is considered the best thing against a team that is objectively better than us at that thing. So what you're saying is you're going to lose.
Yeah, and you're
Uh,
not going to get better by the time it changes. So
Right. Given an infinite amount of time, if you're that close, maybe you will. Like eventually, they'll peak, and then you'll start slowly getting there. Well, guess what? At the end of the stage, maybe there's going to be a brand new meta. So you've wasted your time. You've wasted a stage, and you're absolutely not one of the best teams. So the whole like, if we're going to be one of the best, you're not. So stop trying to be and start getting some wins. Like you have to you have to get there first, right? You can't just say, "Oh, we're going to be one of the best teams, so we're going to like if I'm playing basketball, I'm not doing the same workouts and the same routines as LeBron James and Kyrie Irving. Like I'm not I'm not going to
yeah,
do that. You don't need to play NBA defense against your buddies, okay? You just need to win the game.
And you don't need to go all out. I thought it was interesting because Boston took on Vancouver this week, and they went all in on just the ball DPS. I mean, they played it, I think, every map for the majority of the map, and they went all in on it instead of going up against Vancouver's goats. And I don't know if that's the answer either, but at least try some stuff on point one defense on two CP, one offense on two CP, Koth for sure. Payload's a hard one to really sell, but maybe try the bunker comp on payload. That's what Boston tried, and Boston doing that gave a whole lot of teams a whole lot of looks at things that just might work later down the line, and they was basically a favor to the league, Boston doing that, because there's going to be a lot of film now people could check out and come up with their own adaptation for their team of what they could possibly do. I know Boston got 4-0'd, but it was at least an attempt to see what could work.
Right. Like Boston, maybe they also got 8-0'd. We had a lot of 8-0s this week. But Boston, their mentality is that they're going to try to win against anyone because they've had these upsets before. Boston beat New York in the regular season last year. Boston has had huge streaks, and I think Huck and the coaching staff and the players of Boston have bought into that philosophy of like, we're going to scrap and we're going to win against anyone, or we're also going to lose against anyone. But like, they have been at the caliber of being considered, at the very least, one of the best teams in the league. Houston has never been that.
Well, and if they don't buy in, they're out.
Yeah. And you know what? For all the crap that Huck gets for that mentality, like, if I'm running a team, run a tight ship.
Yeah,
run the team you want to run the team, and run it to the, not to the ground, but run it, with people who buy into it.
Yeah, if I was an owner, I would definitely like Huck as a GM for sure.
It's a very traditional sports mentality that even when he was a caster and the esports people did not like him, I always liked him because I always kind of got it. He always had that competitive player, that competitive traditional sports mentality of like, yeah, that was a bad play. We're going to do something different here, and we're going to run the system. You need to buy in, and if you don't, that's fine. The door's that way. I love it, but
you reminded me of the Huck ZP fight. That was, if you haven't seen it, Google it.
Yeah.
Where Huck tells ZP that, well, at least I've been able to get out of gold.
Oof.
ZP's just like, it's so good, dude. Jesus.
Yeah, it is. And you know what? I like Huck. I like it. I like you got to buy into the system. I don't like the whole like, I don't know. It's almost like the esports mentality of like, this isn't really that serious, and we're still gamers. It's like, nope, this is the big leagues, boys. Like that is the core principle of Overwatch League, and I've been saying it for a very long time now. Like, this is not just another league. This is not just esports. This is sport here. Traditional sports specifically, and obviously we want to adapt.
Yeah, they built it that way, and it's definitely different from what esports has ever been, and I, for one, love it.
Absolutely, and I think it's those big steps that are the reason that Overwatch League is something different and something great. But I'm preaching to the choir as well as beating a dead horse, etc., etc. Let's talk a little bit about. I got to get. I've had too much negative here. I need some positive. Let's talk about the fuel also getting stopped here, going into their HomeSTAND weekend. How are you feeling about the boys in blue as they go home for the first home games of Overwatch League?
I don't know, man. I think we kind of, it's, they've moved to Philadelphia Fusion status, and you have to, is it good Dallas or bad Dallas? It's very confusing because, I mean, they go 8-0 last week and just look really good. And then I expected them to lose to Vancouver. I thought maybe they'd take a map
Hmm.
Like I thought it would probably be a 3-1,
Yeah.
but for them to lose to Seoul like that, like I really thought Dallas was going to be 3-1, and I just I've been watching them, and it feels like if Dallas goes 0-2 in a series, they're going to get 4-0. It's like they just break down
Hmm.
and they lose all confidence, and they just don't play well. They
Right.
seems like a lot of them on the team try to become like they go away from their we're a team
Hmm.
to individual players trying to make a play and then getting caught out, and it's just it's really frustrating because the map differential, even if they get like even if they get a good record, to be like last season, like their map or last stage,
Hmm.
their map differential like kept them out, and it's just they got to learn how to just at least keep playing when they lose. And
Hmm.
I don't think they're a top tier talent team. I think a couple of their players are top tier. Mainly the tanks, I think, are pretty dang good.
Hmm.
And Unko definitely has moments of being awesome. And AKM has really become a really good leader. And just, I mean, I like AKM a lot, but they need to remember that they have to keep playing as the team to have the success that they're having when they are successful. And you're not going to win it. You don't have any players that are going to go in there and 6K. It's just that's
Hmm.
not the team you are. And so I don't know. I mean, I wasn't really bummed about the Vancouver, but I was really bummed about Seoul,
Hmm.
especially because it's an old rivalry, and
Yeah.
two of the few teams that I actually watched on a regular basis before Overwatch League.
Yeah, it was definitely. Um, it almost seemed like a turning point for the positive after last week, obviously, with the 8-0 for Fuel. I mean, this would have been a really nice week for them to, go 1-1. I mean, if they took Vancouver, I think all bets are off, and the universe is out of shuffle there.
I
But
would have, yeah, you wouldn't have me on the show.
it's true. It would have been too much. Winning against Toronto and then going on to win against Vancouver would have been too much for me. But especially if New York still lost, I just you would have been insufferable. But yeah, I mean, you're going into the homestand weekend. Obviously, you've got the home crowd, which we've talked about. It's not nothing, man. Like, they've got the noise canceling headphones, but I know you've talked to a lot of players about it. Like, they can hear it, they can feel it, you can feel the vibe, you can see the color. I mean, one of the most pumped up I get watching the broadcast from home is when we hear the "Shields Up" chant from the
Yep.
crowd. Like, and it's so loud that you can barely hear the
Shields
caster.
up,
Yeah,
wings out,
it's
shields up.
great.
And they're chanting back and forth at each
Yeah,
other. I've been there live for one of the
that's awesome.
LA wars, and I mean, it was super neat.
Yeah.
But I do have to say though, I think there's going to be a healthy amount of Houston fans there too. It's not like I
Yes.
had to like give my Dallas Fuel fan card when I bought my tickets.
Yeah. The Houston versus Dallas match I think is going to be sick, and I really wish I could be at it. But um, I mean, they're playing. Well, we'll talk about the actual matches, but before we get into that, how are you feeling about just going to the venue? Because you're going to be at the Dallas Homestead match. Obviously, Mel Arena, your wife is a Houston fan. You being a Dallas fan, what's the trip going to be like for you? I mean, what are you expecting out of this home game?
Well, we're definitely a house divided, and we talk smack on each other's teams, but when since it's just the two of us usually sitting here watching, we support each other, give high fives when their team does good,
Hmm.
stuff like that. Just to be supportive in the household because we're not out. But when we went to a watch party in DC, we definitely weren't that. We were pretty back and forth. So I feel like it's going to be a lot of screaming. We're both going to lose our voices. and we're going to cheer on our own teams, and I'm going to come out victorious. So it's going to be okay for me, It's like, but yeah, I'm super pumped. I got some good seats on the floor. I'm ready to see what they do. I'm also very curious to see if they're able to pull it off.
Yeah.
With some of the snafus that happened with Twitch this last, what was it,
Yes.
Thursday?
Yep.
That was really weird. But I mean, that was probably most likely on Twitch's side. But
I think it was the first time I ever experienced anything like that as well. So
yeah, it was really annoying. I was thinking, man, this better be fixed by the time Dallas comes on. I did find out that the MLG uh, presentation of it wasn't having problems. So
I forgot that
so
you
I
could
did
watch
watch
it on
that for a little bit.
MLG.
Yeah, somebody tweeted at me and told me, so thank you for that. But yeah, I'm just curious if they could pull it off. I'm curious what it's going to be like. I'll be taking video to see what the crowd is like,
Yeah.
and maybe put together a video of just the weekend or something,
Mm-hmm.
like a little collage. But I'm just excited and ready to see what it's like.
I'm very excited to see because this is like before the season started, the Envy and Optic fan bases were what were really touted as like the esports fan bases. We're seeing them matched up this week in person. This is going to be the barometer of what an esports event crowd can be like. So I'm extremely excited. This is where we get our first taste. I mean, besides the World Cup, even the World Cup is still very much an esports event, even though you get the live sporting atmosphere of it. This is going to be the first, like, this is an esports event. This is a sport event. This is going to be what an Overwatch League live event is like. So I'm extremely excited about that. But let's go on here and we got a short week this week, but it is a big one as we go into the homestand weekend. Starting on Saturday, we've got Paris Eternal versus the London Spitfire. I'm still in the boat of I'm not picking Paris to win the rest of the stage. And in turn, I'm giving the London Spitfire a 4-0 scoreline here. Bob, who do you have?
Yeah, I tried to have a little parody, but I just couldn't hear. And yeah, London 4-0 for me as well. Paris looks to be struggling pretty hard, and they are, despite being the best GOATS team, they're not the best GOATS team.
Yeah, no, they are not. But don't worry because Houston is trying to be. Up next, we've got the Hangzhou Spark versus the Chengdu Hunters. This is one of the I think really closely contested matches here. Hangzhou and Chengdu have both shown signs, have shown flashes of greatness, but have also shown flashes of being really shaky. I'm gonna go with a 3-2 victory here for Chengdu. Who do you got, Bob?
I went for a 3-2 victory for Hangzhou Spark. And I did this because if anyone could bring a DPS comp right back at Chengdu, Hangzhou could do it. And Crystal's playing now, and they could definitely come in and really just play Chengdu's game against Chengdu. And I, everybody says Jim Yu's the best Pharah. I don't know. I haven't seen enough Pharahs play, and I haven't seen him play in that comp against GOATs, which is what I see him doing really, really well. So I think Crystal plays, Gushwei plays. They do a DPS comp. I think Hangzhou has a chance to win here.
Yeah, I could definitely see this. If you're playing Pick'em, this is an easy flip. If there's one team that is overwhelmingly picked, I would definitely go with a flip here for the Pick'em. Up next, we've got Houston Outlaws versus the Seoul Dynasty. I really don't have a lot of confidence in Houston right now. Seoul has got a little bit of the hot hand. It looks like they've kind of got their roster figured out how they want to play it. Just play Fleta. Come on. In that light, I've got Seoul here 3-1. What do you got, Bob?
I got Seoul 4-0. I really think that Houston is just struggling, and the travel on top of everything, I think that it's going to be rough for them. And I think that they care the most about beating Dallas, so I think they'll be putting most of their eggs in that basket.
Sure, that definitely makes sense. Last match on Saturday, we've got the LA Valiant versus the Dallas Fuel, the home team. With that being said, Valiant has doubled their wins this season, but that does mean they only have 2 wins. I do not predict a third here. Dallas 3-1. Are you muted, Bob? Are you muted?
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, I've got to go the same. I think Dallas 3-1 because I think Dallas still screws up one match, even though I really think Dallas could 4-0 them. I don't think they will.
As long as Izzyaki gets me my fantasy points and carries me, I'll be happy. On to Sunday, we've got the Hangzhou Spark versus Paris Eternal. Again, I'm not picking Paris to win the rest of the stage, maybe even the rest of the season. Give me Hangzhou 3-1.
Yeah, I went the same. Hangzhou 3-1. I really have no faith in Paris as well.
We've also got Chengdu Hunters versus the London Spitfire. Again, I'm still on the, London is really stepping up here. They've got they're making a real run. They can definitely make a stage playoff run and really push it here. I've got London 3-1. Bob, what do you got?
Well, I just think that London's going to struggle against Chengdu. It's just a hunch. It's not really doesn't really make a lot of sense. Yours makes more sense. But I went 3-2.
That is the first time that has ever happened where someone said my hunch made more sense.
Yeah, I went 3-2. I think that it goes to a 5th map and Chengdu still wins on control.
That's a bold flip. I like it. I like it a lot. That's definitely a make up some ground in the pick'em type of pick. I love it. The penultimate match of the weekend is going to be the Seoul Dynasty versus the LA Valiant. Again, LA really not showing me much here. LA Valiant not showing me much here. Unfortunately, the Gladiators don't play this weekend. But give me Seoul 3-1.
Yeah, I'm going to go Seoul 3-1 too. And I think Seoul's quote-unquote B squad is really started to look pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I didn't agree with it at first, but now that I've activated my my big brain trade plays here, it does with Fissure not really being played as much, and Toronto kind of really their soft spot being in the main tank department. I'm just saying, let's wheel and deal here, boys. Let's bring Fissure in. I don't care about the outside of the game stuff. Let him feed his ego. The boys, you know what? I am 37 is already the commissioner of Overwatch League. You know what? Fissure, you can give him the crown. Let him be on the team. Neko, Fissure, I am 37. Man, that's a strong team. That's a strong team.
What about your favorite player though, Janice?
Like I've said, I don't remember where I said it, but I would rather have Numlocked than Janice.
Well, and he burnt you twice too, because you said, go to Toronto, like they're a different style team. Maybe he doesn't feed, but no.
No, Janice is on Washington.
Oh no, who am I thinking? No. Yeah. Why am I thinking Washington? I'm like crazy out of it.
Well, I thought you were saying Toronto should pick up Janice, in which case I would say
be hilarious.
No, I'd be so mad. You have no idea how mad I would be. I would rather sign me as a main tank. I would rather sign actual me as a main tank and watch me play, but not get paid and not play. Not just like a copy of me that has my exact same Overwatch skills. I would rather have that player in the Overwatch League on my team than Janice right now. It has been said. Oh man, now I'm upset. But Toronto, pick up Fisher, please. Last match of the week, the big one, the real home game, the real rivalry, the battle for Texas, Houston Outlaws versus the Dallas Fuel. Bob, we'll start with you. What's your analysis here? Who do you got?
I'm going Dallas 3-2, and I honestly do think Dallas is quite a bit better of a team. Not like, the toppest of the tiers, but I think Dallas is a better team. But I think Houston's going to play better against Dallas. It just kind of it means so much to them
Mm-hmm.
that, especially since I don't think Dallas has ever won one of their
Nope.
matchups, and so they really don't want that happening. I think they're going to have all their eggs in it. I think it's going to be a slobber knocker, and I think it's going to end to Dallas.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you said, and I've talked about how I've got really little faith in Houston and the coaching staff right now. The staff in general, I think they've made a lot of bad choices. I think they're really not looking great here. They lost to Shanghai of all teams. But since Deathblow is not here to defend himself, I have to do the podcast family right, and I gotta pick Houston 3-2. Gotta get the representation. I do like the point you made that Houston is going to care a ton about this. So is Dallas, but like I've mentioned with Seoul against New York, really any team against New York, but the certain rivalries, teams will overplay what their on paper ability is against certain teams in certain situations. I think the rivalry here amplifies that. I think the venue here amplifies that. I think that Houston really does have a good shot here. But give me Houston 3-2. And even though maybe it's possible that in my heart of hearts I picked Dallas, I gotta let the whole podcast answer here and give Deathblow his representation and give Deathblow his day in court, even though he's not here. So
Yeah, I think it's definitely possible for either of them to take it, and I think that's good. I think you guys called it sports magic when teams
yes,
play up to different standards against different teams. It's just like no matter how bad the Raiders have sucked, they always put up a fight against the Chiefs,
yeah,
or vice versa,
yeah.
depending on what year you're talking about.
True. Give me a little sports magic to spice this one up, but. That is going to be the end of the week here for Overwatch League because we've got the short week. I know it's going to feel like a much longer week for you, Bob, as I'm sure it's going to be a crazy weekend for you in Dallas.
Can't wait.
Man, I think it's going to be. I think more so than almost any other weekend. Give me grand finals was more important. Opening franchise or opening weekend of Overwatch League is maybe more important, but I think this might be the third most important piece of history for Overwatch League. This is where we really start to turn from being just a regular run-of-the-mill esports league into more of the future of esports and sport. And I think this is a real big test as to what this can be. So I'm very, very excited for that. Bob, thank you so much for being on the show, coming in our time of need, and burning blue for the boys in blue. Any last words here? Shout outs, sellouts, whatever, what have you? What do you got for me?
Just thank you for having me, and you can find my podcast on owlrecap.com, or you can catch me on Twitter at Blazzin_Bob. That's BLAZZIN_BOB.
ZINBOB. That is BlazzinBob. Thank you so much again for being on the show. That is going to be it, everyone. Make sure you check out Bob and all the stuff that he does. He is one of the hardcore podcasting fam in the greater Overwatch and Overwatch League world. Longtime friend of myself, Deathblow, and the show. Huge thanks for him to being on. But, guys, that is going to be it for the show. Make sure to check us out at highnoonpodcast.com and everywhere on the internet. High Noon Podcast, all that good stuff. Yeah, that's going to be it for BlazzinBob. I am the Blevins, and remember, guys, it's high noon.
It's high noon.
Got his boots and he put on his hat. Threw the coin away that same day. It's in his past and he's not looking back. He says, finding mine now, God's my way. He's not good, but he sure ain't bad. He'll make amends for the sins that he has. He says, I'll change the world one bullet at a time till I find mine.
I think somehow I Am 37 is going to win the entire Dallas Fuel homestand weekend. Just putting it out there. It's going
Throw
to
that out there. He's not even there though.
Exactly.